What is going on, guys? There's been a lot of news in the last couple of days, and I just wanted to try to consolidate a lot of it for you guys today because there's just so much to talk about, and a lot of it is Legion based. Speaking of Legion bases, they did actually announce some Legion bases, so that's kind of cool. So here they are. They're coming in all different sizes, 2 different packs. You've got your larger bases in one pack and your smaller bases in another pack, and that's pretty cool. I think for a lot of you who wanted to rebase or maybe didn't want to rebase, it gives you some options that have that Death Star look to them. So very cool looking. I like that. I like that a lot, as a matter of fact. I will probably get some, and I think one thing that's really cool about having these Legion bases is if you were thinking about doing any kind of custom proxies, you wanted to take some of your Imperial Assault stuff and copy those in, or maybe you wanted to 3D print some of your own stuff, or maybe you're gonna order from like Mel Miniatures because he's made a lot of really cool stuff for Legion lately. Battle droids. I think he even mentioned that he might think about working on like the Rebels crew or something like that. There's so many options, and so using those bases is a great way to have something official, at least the right size that you can go ahead and put something unofficial on. Or if some of your base, maybe you lost some bases or whatever, so it's just a cool idea to do that. Or you just want to show off and be a little fancy, So I know some people are using clear bases or whatever, but there's always that risk that your base is not going to be official, and that somebody might complain and it's not an actual FFG product or whatever. So that much, really cool. Another thing Legion related is they're doing, and they're doing this for other stuff too, but they're doing basically official rulings now. So that is going to be cool. We're going to talk about those, and I'm going to put a link to that on Crabbok.com. So you guys, I have basically an errata section, which is kind of like FAQ and just rules reference for all of these different games. I have that for Legion as well, but I'll also link to these official rulings, which are a great way to do like an FAQ, or a clarification without necessarily having to do changes. Because a lot of times FAQ documents, when they come out, they also have errata and card changes in them. And those can take time to get out because something like that has to be tested. Something like that has to be, vetted back and forth. And there can even be licensor approval, especially if you were to change. Let's say you had the Millennium Falcon and you wanted to suddenly change it. Oh, it's too overpowered for the Rebels, so we're going to make it Imperial. Well, Lucasfilm is going to say, no, you can't make the Millennium Falcon Imperial, and back and forth. Hypothetical, I just made that up. All right, don't want anybody saying, oh, Imperial Millennium Falcon incoming. Point being, changing things requires a lot of process. But when it's as simple as clarifying a rule, sometimes you don't want that to have to wait for licensor approval and for testing, especially when it's something that was intended all along. So these official rulings are a great way to have something officially put out by FFG that clarifies the intent or the way something's supposed to work, without having people say, "Oh, well, I got an email from so and so." So let's look at a couple of these. When a commander, if one of them is when a commander is equipped with an upgrade of battle meditation, is issuing orders. In addition to bypassing the usual restriction of range, can an order also be issued to a different type that is not listed on the card plate? Yes, and that's something that was going around in a lot of emails. Like if you play Luke Skywalker, Son of Skywalker, it says, oh, you can only issue an order to Luke Skywalker, but if he has battle meditation, you can issue it to a Snowspeeder if you want. That one's pretty cool, and these are all and I'll put a link to this in the description below. Another one, can the upgrade card Force Push be used to force an enemy trooper to climb or clamber? The answer is no. I've been saying this to people for a while because it says to do a move, right? So the answer that they give, no. Whenever a game effect forces a unit to perform a speed X move, that unit performs a full or partial standard move with that speed to or lower than X. Climbing or clambering are not standard moves and thus cannot be performed in place of a speed X move. Good stuff. Another one, after performing a move, if Darth Vader is equipped with the upgraded Saber Throw, can he use Relentless ability to perform a ranged attack using Saber Throw? This one, I don't think this one was asked as much because I think that one was pretty clear. Is Saber Throw considered an attack action, a card action, or both? The answer is yes. Some card actions, such as those on Saber Throw or Jump X, are treated as other types of actions. And so they're just clarifying that Saber Throw is treated as an attack action, thus it can work with Relentless. Here's another one. There's a lot of these in here. They're really cool. If an ATST is in melee with an enemy unit, can the ATST use Arsenal 2 keyword to select a melee weapon to use against the enemy unit that is in melee, and a ranged weapon to use against a different enemy unit? So can you use Arsenal on your ATST, basically, if you have no hard points, right? And the answer is yes, because the ATST is not a trooper unit. It's not engaged while in melee. And here's the distinction. It is in melee. Let's say, I'm going to use the example of Luke Skywalker running up to an ATST, all right? They'll be in melee, but the ATST is not engaged. And so while it can use its claws, it's also not restricted by the things that engagement does. So it can shoot somebody else. Now, it can't shoot Luke because he is because you're in melee. Thus, you can't use a ranged attack on somebody that you're in melee with, but you can shoot somebody else and then kick Luke. When a unit spends a standby token to perform an attack, can it use a weapon that has a cumbersome keyword even though it moved during its activation earlier in the same round? Again, this should be pretty clear, but for those of you who had questions on it, yes, a unit can use a weapon with cumbersome keyword during an attack triggered by spending a standby token, even if they moved during its activation earlier in the same round. Because the cumbersome applies to your activation, not for the whole turn. Another one, do weapon keywords and unit keywords such as Impact X or Arsenal X stack with themselves when an attack pool or unit gains another instance of that keyword? Yes, all keywords with numerical values or any X value are cumulative. This includes weapon keywords such as Impact X. So, you know, one of the early examples, if you're using 4 stormtroopers with impact grenades and they have, this impact grenades of impact 1, and all 4 stormtroopers are throwing the same grenade, it's going to be impact 4. And the reason is because that is on the weapon. Now, if the stormtrooper unit itself had impact 1, then that wouldn't stack per mini because that's not on, but it's when it's on a weapon, you're doing that. At the question, at the end of performing a compulsory move, can a unit leader's base be placed such that it partially overlaps a piece of terrain that it couldn't normally be placed on top of, or be moved slightly such that it doesn't overlap a piece of terrain and still be considered to have performed a full move? No. Like, this is basically the question is like if you have a snow speeder and it's trying to do its move and it hits a barricade during its compulsory move. Like, maybe there's a bunch of barricades and it can't do the move without hitting a barricade. I know some people were asking this question because they're thinking, well, my snow speeder can fly over the barricades. Why does it crash into the barricade? And this is just one of those times, I think, where game mechanics is going to trump. But let me read the full answer here. No. As a rule, a mini must be placed as flat as possible on the battlefield after performing any type of move. Obviously, not all terrain a unit could end their move on is on top of is perfectly flat, and players should agree beforehand as to what units can and can't end their movement on. However, as a general rule, if overlapping a piece of terrain causes a mini to be unstable or to fall over, or causes a mini's base to be at an angle greater than 45 degrees, the mini cannot end a move overlapping that piece of terrain. Personally, I think 45 degrees is a bit much because that's like that, and I'm sorry, you can't have and so the snow speeder would be up like that's crazy. I tend to think like closer to like 5 or 10 degrees is reasonable. Beyond that is a bit much for my tastes. But if you were playing me, we would talk about that before, because these are general. That 45 degrees is just a guideline. That's not set in stone. But the Speeder X keyword allows a unit to ignore terrain height of X only while moving through that terrain. It must still end its move in a legal position. So the keyword is they're moving through the terrain. Additionally, if a unit performing a compulsory move cannot complete a full move without overlapping a piece of terrain, and it cannot end its movement on, it must perform a partial move instead and suffer damage equal to its maximum speed. So, bottom line, long story short, Snow Speeder has got to do a compulsory move, but there's barricades everywhere, and it can't land anywhere. It's going to go as far forward as it can. It's going to stop before the barricade, and it's going to take 3 damage because the speed is 3. Now, that may be a little bit glass shattering. That may be that might seem a little unrealistic, and I understand that. If you're looking for a thematic reason, you could just say that you went too low, and that you clipped, you clipped the ground. Because just because they're flying high, they don't necessarily always have to fly high. I don't know. I mean, how did they pick up Han and Luke when they were out there on the in the ice, sleeping inside the Tauntaun? They, they had to go low and to pick them up, didn't they? I don't know. Okay. Here's another one. If a trooper gains a suppression token after performing its first action of its activation, such as a standby attack, if it now has suppression tokens equal to or exceeding its courage value, does it lose its second activation or its second action? Additionally, during a suppressed unit's activation, can it perform a recover action for its first action, removing all of its suppression tokens, and then proceed to perform its second action? No. And this boils down to timing. They say in both cases, a unit is considered suppressed at any time it has suppression tokens equal or exceeding its courage value. However, a suppressed unit only loses an action if it's still suppressed immediately after it performs its rally step. So basically, if you gain extra tokens afterwards, well, that's fine. You're not losing your action. It's only because it's after the fact. The opportunity's already gone. Same thing with like X-Wing. If you were to take a focus action and then push the limit and target lock and then get a stress, you don't retroactively lose your ability to take an act. Well, you lose your ability, but you don't lose your previous action. I guess it's not really the same thing because the timing of those are slightly different. Point being, if I'm good, all right, I'm not suppressed. I'm a stormtrooper. Okay, I've only got courage value 1. All right, I'm gonna move. Oh, I get shot with somebody's standby. Now I have a suppression token. I still get to take my second action, basically. The first sentence of Impact X glossary entry in the rules reference should read, during the modify attack dice step of an attack, if the defender has the armor keyword, a unit whose attack pool includes a weapon that has the Impact X keyword can modify the result of the attack roll by changing it to critical results. Like one of the key things with Impact is just that it's being done after you have a chance to spend dodge and apply cover. So cover actually does matter for vehicles with armor. That's why the Snowspeeder has it, because you might have an impact. You might have impact 3, right? Let's say you roll 3 hits on me. Now, if I have armor, I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to take hit damage, but you're going to be able to take that impact 3 and turn that into hits or into crits. So this I have an opportunity as an armored defender to spend a dodge. Or apply cover and cancel some of those hits before you can turn them into crits through impact. So that's the way the impact timing works. And there's a whole lot more. I'm not going to go over all the rest, but I did want to cover a couple of those because some of that's pretty interesting stuff. So basically, they're reaching out more. They're trying to have more, and you can expect this for other games as well in the future. It's just a way for them to kind of reach out and clarify things more directly than only communicating through emails, which some people have not been a big fan of. A lot of people do like that dev interaction. I do like that dev interaction too, but there is also a sense of maybe a little bit of people being a little upset when you see, like, oh, I know this is the rule, and somebody else is like, yeah, well, Alex Davies sent me an email because I'm more special than you, and he told me to play it this way. And I'm like, well, how do I know that Alex Davies sent you an email? Like, well, I have a screenshot of it on my phone, and I might say, well, how do I know that that's a real screenshot from Alex Davies? Maybe you just typed that up. I mean, an entrepreneur could potentially, come up with a little, Word document that looks like an email and say signed Alex Davey and Google how to spell his name because it's not that hard. You could basically somebody could really mess you. So to remove all doubt, because I have seen some people kind of get into little spats about like, well, I don't know, I don't trust your email, and I'm not going to do it until I see it official. So this is an official way for them to at least clarify some things about those rules, and I think that's really cool. But a lot of more interesting stuff. Android. I don't really cover Android Netrunner. I don't play that game, but they just announced that that's shutting down as of today. I mean, they're gonna have they're gonna do up through Worlds this year in 2018, but or rather Store Championships or whatever. They're still gonna they're gonna have one more expansion out there. They're gonna have a little bit more for Android, but they just announced that the license is over and that game is shutting down. That's and that comes as a surprise because Android was doing pretty well as far as I knew, and so this potentially makes way for more things. It makes me wonder, you see, as soon as FFG broke their agreement, or not broke their agreement, but as soon as FFG and Games Workshop ended their licensing agreement, and so FFG was no longer making 40K stuff. then all of a sudden, certain things, like they started working more on Terranoth, their own IP, right? And so this is, you saw this in Terranoth is the world of Descent. Terranoth is also the world of Rune Wars, and then their new Heroes of Terranoth card game that would like just got announced as well. Again, lots of news. I wonder what else is coming, you know. But now that Android, and that's one of their big LCGs, that may be one of their, I don't know what their biggest LCG is, but this one was huge. And it's, you know, and they're ending that. I wouldn't be surprised if a new LCG comes out. They already announced the sunset of the Star Wars LCG, and now Android LCG is coming out. What's next? And does this mean that more stuff is going to be coming out for their Terranoth IP, or are they going to develop more IPs? Makes me wonder about other games like Armada. Hasn't seen a lot of news lately. It's still Friday when I'm making this video, so there's always a chance something could come out soon. Origins is coming up, and then Gen Con is not too long after that, so that's exciting. But makes me wonder, like, what if they were to do, you know, copy some ideas, because, you know, you see the stuff in Terranoth tends to mirror stuff in Star Wars. So you had Rune Wars, which is their tabletop, you know, game for Terranoth, and then they came out with Legion, which in my opinion, is a much better version of a tabletop game that you have to paint. But those two games are similar. One's using trays and one's not, and Legion's just monstrously better because it's so much more in depth and it has so much more rewarding with terrain and all the different things that can happen. So that being said, I wonder what would happen if they were to decide to apply that to other things. Like, you know, you had Dungeons and Dragons Attack Wing, D&D Attack Wing, which was kind of similar to Star Trek Attack Wing and X-Wing. What if they had like a birds and, you know, dudes flying and like a version of X-Wing in Terranoth? Or better yet, what if they had a naval giant ships, galleons, and, you know, corvettes and things like that for an Armada version in Terranoth or something like that? I wonder what would, like, if they started to take some of these game mechanics and apply them to their own universe. Or what if they made a whole new IP that is futuristic based, like, you know, like a Star Wars or Star Trek or 40K kind of universe, and could apply something like that to Star Wars Armada. Interesting stuff. Again, I'm just thinking outside the box. I wonder if that would allow them to get, you know, product out more quickly instead of having to wait for licensor approval. And if it used the same mechanics that I've grown to love, I would probably give it a shot. But I'm curious what you guys think if they were to branch out more into their own IPs using a lot of the game mechanics that we're already familiar with from the games that they have. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out Crabbok.com, check out the Discord, and thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.